Have you ever just wished you could hand a list of instructions to your computer and poof, it just builds the whole thing for you? I mean, fixing its own bugs and everything? Well, it sounds like sci-fi, but a new tool called Ralph is promising to do pretty much exactly that. So first, let's talk about the big problem it's trying to fix.
Okay, so before we jump into the cool solution, let's get real about a pain point that anyone who's ever written a line of code knows all too well. It's this thing we can call the coding loop challenge. And honestly, is at the very heart of what we do as developers.
And you know what I'm talking about, right? It's that endless cycle. That's where developers spend, most of their time. It's this constant grind. You write some code, you run a test. Oh, look, it's broken. You find the bug, you fix the bug, and then you do it all over again and again. Look, this loop isn't just some small part of the job. For a lot of projects, it literally is the job. It's this grind that you just have to do, and it can be so tedious and just eats up all your time. But what if you could just break that loop? Like for good? And that right there is where Rolf comes in. It's an AI tool specifically designed to take over that entire development loop. It works autonomously, and it could totally transform how we build software. So what exactly is Ralph? Well, it's an autonomous AI agent, and it's built on top of Anthropic's Claude Code. The idea is simple. You give it your project requirements, and it just gets to work. It iterates over and over and over until the job is done. And yeah, for those of you wondering, it is humorously named after Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. I love that. It kind of gives you a feel for the project's personality, right? A little creative, a little self-aware. The really key concept to grasp here is what's called the autonomous AI development loop. Look, this isn't just about a tool that spits out some code one time and calls it a day. No, this is about a continuous process where the AI is constantly refining, improving, and fixing the project. Kind of like a human developer would, but, it never gets tired and doesn't need a single coffee break. In fact, this quote from the project's own README file really nails it. It talks about these continuous, autonomous development cycles where Claude Code just keeps improving the project. But, and this is super important, it also mentions built-in safeguards to prevent infinite loops and API overuse. And honestly, that's the stuff that makes Rolf a genuinely practical tool, and not just some cool one-off experiment.
Okay, so we get what Ralph is, but the big question is, how does it actually think? How does it work on a project? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine that drives this whole thing.
So it all comes down to this really elegant 5-step cycle. First, it reads your instructions, whatever you told it to do. Then it gets to work using Claude Code to actually execute on that. As it's working, it's tracking its own progress. And here's the crucial part. It evaluates if the job is actually done based on your original requirements. And if it's not, well, it just loops back and does it all again, getting a little better, a little more refined each and every time. But wait a minute. This is probably the question popping into your head right now, isn't it? An autonomous AI sounds awesome, but what stops it from just running wild? Racking up a huge API bill or getting stuck in some endless loop forever? Well, the answer is some really smart built-in safeguards. Let's take a closer look at these safety nets because they're super important. First, you've got the circuit breaker. This is so clever. If Ralph senses it's just spinning its wheels and not making any real progress, it just shuts itself off. Then there's rate limiting, which is exactly what it sounds like. It keeps your API costs under control. And maybe the most important one is the intelligent exit. It actually knows when the project is done and stops all by itself. These are the things that make you feel like you can actually trust it. And hey, if you're sitting there wondering about how reliable this whole thing is, check this out. The project has a massive test suite. We're talking 276 tests, and every single one of them is passing. This tells you it's not just some weekend hack. This is mature, well-tested software. All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but how hard is it to actually use? Well, the good news is the creators have made getting started super straightforward. It's basically a simple 2-phase approach. Here's how simple it is. You run one install script, one time on your machine. That's it. From that point on, whenever you want to start a new project, it's just a single command. You can be up and running in seconds. And when you do set up a project, you've got a couple of ways to do it. Option 1, if you already have a product requirements document, a PRD, you can just import it. Ralph is smart enough to read it and convert it into tasks. That's awesome for fitting into existing workflows. Or option 2, you can just start from a blank slate and write out your instructions manually. Having that choice is what makes it so flexible. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and think about the big picture here. A tool that can write and fix its own code. That's so much more than just a little productivity hack. This is pointing towards a massive fundamental shift in what it even means to be a software developer.
What we're really seeing is the developer's role changing, evolving into something more like an AI orchestrator. Your job isn't about grinding out every single line of code anymore. Instead, it's about defining the high-level goals and then supervising the AI that does all the grunt work. And that means the skills that matter are changing too. Being able to communicate clearly through prompts, designing solid system architecture, those things become way more valuable than just being able to type code really fast. The AI handles the tedious loop, which frees us humans up to focus on the big stuff, architecture, creativity, and vision.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. When all that tedious, repetitive work of implementation gets automated away, what's next? What new, bigger, more amazing problems are we going to solve? I mean, if an AI can write the code, what will you build next? The future here is wide open. And honestly, that's a pretty exciting thing to think about.